Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, The New Reality of Real Estate. My name is Karen Dorsonia. I am the Sales Director with the Mansion at Rosemont. Thank you so much for making time in your day to learn a little bit more about how we're all managing together real estate questions throughout the recent pandemic. Today, we will be joined by Maureen Mahoney from Berkshire Hathaway. A few tips just to review with you as we're beginning our webinar. This session is being recorded and will be available to participants upon request. So if you have to depart early for any reason, no worries. We will send you a link following the presentation so that you can access the entire event beginning to end. Throughout the presentation, Maureen will ask certain poll questions. These will pop up on your screen and you can select your answer. You can choose to skip the poll question if you prefer. This is a great way for Maureen to really judge where you all are in your process and tailor the presentation to be most helpful to you, our participants. If you have a question throughout the presentation, you can click the Q&A button and click Ask a Question. If you are having any technical difficulties through the webinar, please register those through our chat and Bailey will be able to help you. The format agenda for today is to have approximately half an hour, 30-minute presentation by Maureen Mahoney. We will also do a brief overview for any of you who have questions about the Mansion in Rosemont. And then the last portion of the webinar will be an open forum question and answers so that you can all feel as though you've been able to leave here with questions answered. If you, because we do have a significant number of participants on today's webinar, if you would like to raise your hand, that's the best way to ask the question. We will be muting your participation upon entering, so simply click on this button to raise your hand. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you need to leave the webinar for some reason early, you can click on the leave button and rest assured that we will forward you the complete webinar. At the beginning, I had introduced myself. My name is Karen Dorsonia. We are sponsoring today's event really out of an abundance of questions we've been receiving from the greater community. We are all finding our way together through the new reality. Real estate is no exception. So we had the good fortune of being connected to Maureen Mahoney, who is a realtor with the Berkshire Hathaway Wayne Devon sales office. She has actually done this presentation in person previously. This is our first foray into the virtual world. So please be patient as we are figuring out our new reality of technical ways to stay connected. So with that, I'd like to pass this along to Maureen so she can begin the presentation.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us today. This is a beautiful community. I really enjoyed the tours. I've got a chance to see it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for the invite. And thank you for being here. Today, hopefully, we'll be able to really cover some great information regarding how COVID-19 has changed the market in virtual selling and how to prepare your house for the market, what staging looks like today, what new buyers are looking for, how to pack and declutter, easy ways to think about getting organized, and really when is the best time to sell. So thanks for the invite, and hopefully we can just demystify the entire process for you.
And learn together.
Yeah, learn together.
I think we're all in it together.
I know, I know.
Spend some time learning together today.
So this is the first time I've done a workshop without getting to see all of your beautiful faces out there and answer questions directly. But I'm excited to be here, and hopefully you guys will interact with us through the process here. So the first poll question we have for you is, how long has it been since you have sold a home? So if you could just answer that for us, it will give us a good idea of the last time you put your house on the market. So it looks like you guys are able to answer that question. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. So due to the poll, it looks like Oh, wow. The majority, 33%, it's been over 30 to 40 years since you've sold a home. So that's a while. A lot of things have changed in the past 30, 40 years since people have put their house on the market. And that's the Monopoly board. When you play the game of Monopoly, we always wanted Boardwalk or we wanted Park Place. The reason you wanted that was because you got more money when people passed go. Well, that hasn't changed, so that's easy. Some things do remain the same, but a lot has changed. It's not a handshake anymore. There's a lot of contract, and there's a lot of things that have changed virtually since you put your house on the market. The things that do remain the same though, everybody's still looking for hardwood floors, updated kitchens and baths, home offices, everybody's working from home, open floor plans. Not to worry if you have an older home, there are ways to still have an open floor plan. In-law suites, walkability scores, low taxes, great school districts, and location. What new buyers are looking for now is a little different. And what has changed really is how you sell your house. Even before COVID-19, people were going on their phones virtually, looking at pictures. I could basically go up to any home and take a picture of a house and get all the information I needed. Basically just stroll through the pictures and within 10 seconds go yay or nay. Do I want to go see that house? Call my agent and get a tour. Really within 10 minutes know whether I wanted to look at that house. But with COVID-19, I basically can tour a house virtually. And that's really convenient for a seller today because I don't have to have 30 people tramping through my house. So how do you prepare? That's what we're going to talk about today. What makes it easier for you? This is where preparation meets opportunity. So how do we make it easier for the seller? Well, there's some things you can do. You can have a virtual open house. You can have a quiet listing. What's a quiet listing? What's a quiet listing? A quiet listing is when you put your house on the market, but you don't put it out to the entire public. So you let an agency know that you're going to put it on the market, but you don't have the entire public know that it's going to be on the market. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Does this eliminate all the looky-loo neighbors coming through your
Yeah,
house?
so not everybody knows about it. The whole public's not going to know about it.
That's
Or you have
fantastic.
it coming soon. So you're not having multiple showings. You're having it on the market virtually, okay? You can't have more than 3 people in the house at one time with COVID, which doesn't mean you're having a big open house. And with right now with COVID-19, you're not really having your house on the market for more than 12 to 30 days, which is great. Home sales are actually up 25% in July. In the 5-county area around Philadelphia, we've seen significantly better numbers in terms of pending units of sales.
So would you qualify this as a seller's market or a buyer's market?
Absolutely a seller's market. And the reason for that is there's very little inventory. Builders were not prepared, so there's not a lot of housing on the market, and rates are really low.
Okay, the mortgage interest rates.
Mortgage interest rates are very low. So how do I prepare for a quick sale? We're going to talk about that. How do you stage your house? How do you prepare for these virtual tours and videos? Photography is so important. You can't go around your house and just take pictures these days. They have to be crisp and clean. We need to price it right. We need to hire the right realtor and broker. This isn't a time to be selling it yourself. Seller's disclosures, you really need to know your house. Inspections, we're going to talk about why inspections are important and how to prepare for contingencies. Contingencies are those things that come up in the offer, things that can kind of really get you into trouble. So you really want to be prepared. The number one thing I tell people, and this may sound obvious, but you really need to clean out your house. And a lot of people during this time, during this COVID-19, when you've been staying at home, have realized they have a lot of stuff in their house. You need to clean your walls, your floors. It may sound obvious, but you need to get the stuff out of your house because people are not buying your stuff. They're buying the bones of your house. They're buying the walls, the floors, the windows, and they can't see your stuff, your house with all of the stuff in it. So my husband actually bought a huge trash compact, one of those huge trash bins, yes, and threw everything out of our attic, okay, while we were home, because we didn't realize we had so much stuff in the house after 25 years, right? We need to make room for other people's stuff is the point. And you really need to have an outside cleaning company come in and clean your house. The number one thing you could do. People want to feel like they're going into a hotel room, okay? I don't know if you've ever gone, a good example, I went to New York one year and walked into a beautiful hotel space and there was a toothbrush in the bathroom, okay? I called my husband, he said, get out of there quickly, somebody else is in there. Well, you know other people are in a hotel room before you get there, right? But you never think about that. Well, your buyers
That's such a good
want to
point.
think that nobody else has lived in that house other than them when they move in. So deep clean, very, very important. They really want to feel like it's their house. And you may not scrutinize it the way someone else would. Step 2 is you have to price it right. This is so important. Have your property professionally evaluated. As much as you'd like to set the price as high as possible and negotiate it down, that's not what you need to do today. So you need to use a realtor or an appraiser, not Zillow or your neighbor, all right? Because they'll tell you it might be worth more than it is, but have a third party professionally evaluate it. You need a solid reference. You find out what your home is worth, and then you need to shave 3% off, okay? Sounds crazy, all right?
It's not. So this approach, because it is in a seller's market, I do personally know multiple people this has happened to, where when you price it correctly, you institute that bidding war.
Yes.
Particularly for certain locations, certain school districts. Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
I call it the sweet spot. I call it the sweet spot, okay?
Great advice.
So this is a great example. So this house right here is in Malvern. It's a modern contemporary. It was appraised at $675. We knew the value was going to be $700 at least, all right? This house was a really pretty house. It was an estate, and it was on an elevation, very high elevation. When it rained, water would come down the driveway and there would be standing water in the driveway. It was a 3-car garage, okay, for $700,000. So if you have a very nice car and you want to put it in the garage, that's no longer a working garage. It had a septic system. It had a roof that was okay, but we knew there was going to be a lot of problems with the inspections. So we listed it at $675, knowing that it was going to get at least $700. We knew the value would be around $725. We had 30 showings within 3 days. We had 8 offers. We were able to bid it up to $785, okay, based on the fact that we went under value.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is incredible. So you're also being very transparent with the buyers. So I think it's an honest and transparent approach.
Right. It's right. We knew the value was good. We knew that we would get multiple offers. We wanted a cash offer with no contingencies, and that's what we were able to get. So we removed all the inspections, no septic inspections, no home inspections, nothing. And we got the value for the seller. So I hope that makes sense.
It's an interesting approach because it's referred to as is.
It was a cash deal with no contingencies. So some of the offers had inspections, they had septic inspections, they had home inspections. But what my seller said was, come back and give me your cleanest offer. So some people had mortgages, some people were just cash. Those that had mortgages removed their mortgages and said, I think
this is an important point that the sellers, for them to understand that they have that opportunity and they're able to set some of the parameters of what they are willing and not willing to accept, which can make that property more interesting to a potential buyer for a couple different reasons. So I think it's great to know that you have options as a seller.
You do have options as a seller, only in this market. This has not been this way for a while. I mean, this market is unique.
So
this
capitalize off of the uniqueness of the time period that we're in.
This is a moment in time. This was not this way 8 months ago.
We're in 2008.
I mean, you did not have this kind of opportunity, a year ago, but right now you do. So if you have a property that maybe has some issues, but is in a great location, because of the buyer's demand, you are able to remove some of these contingencies if you know how to price it.
Thank you.
So prepare for the home inspection or do a pre-inspection. So for that house, we did do a pre-inspection. We knew there was not a lot wrong with it other than the standing water in the garage and potentially needed a new septic system, but we knew it worked for 2, maybe not 5. A standard real estate contract, most people are going to ask you for a home inspection, which is standard. But what is a home inspection? They're going to look at your plumbing, your electric, your heating, your AC, your basement, your roof, and you're going to have to fill out a seller's disclosure, and that's basically the history of your home. For the second poll here is, I just want to ask you, everyone that's listening, how well you think you know your home. So if you've been in your home for 30 years, some people are really good stewards of a house, and other people have other people work on the house. So the second poll, how well do you think you know your house if you were to do a home inspection? Do you know what would come up? Let's see what they say. I think this goes all over the place sometimes. Some people really know their house well. Like this gentleman in Malvern, he didn't know the house because it was an estate situation. So we did do the pre-inspection, and I felt he felt great because the inspections came up really well. But
my neighbor had to call out an HVAC contractor the other day, and the house had been built about 15 years ago. And all of a sudden their air conditioning started working. And the first question the HVAC asked them, well, when was the last time you had it serviced? And they had blank looks. They're like, what do you mean serviced? So that would be never.
Never, right, exactly.
Needless to say, they needed a new HVAC system.
Right.
That didn't work out so well, but who knew? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, a lot of people are all over the place with this. Okay, so the majority, or 38%, said that they feel like they kind of know their house well. So I guess it just depends on what area. And then 25% said they had a pretty good idea of that they knew their house, and 13% said they knew their house really well. So that's good. These are the areas that will come up in the home inspection. And the key here with the home inspection is what could come up to hurt you in selling your house that you don't know about. And that's why we take a look at it. So in pre-inspection is important if you don't know your house, because once you put it on the market, let's say a buyer offers you $700,000 for the house and they do this pre-inspection and you find out that you need a new roof and you didn't realize you needed a new roof. Now that $700,000, they might ask you for a credit for 15 back. And you were expecting the full 700 to go into retirement with, and now you're not getting that. You're getting 680 as opposed to 700. So this is the reasons why the inspection is important. Also, you might get blindsided if there's an area that, another example, I did have a couple that had a brand new roof that was put on by J.P. Henry, and they spent a lot of money to have the roof put on, and it was not properly ventilated. Okay. So there was mold that developed in the attic, and they had no idea. So when the inspector came in and the mold was there, they had to remediate. But by doing that pre-inspection, we had 3 different mold companies come out. The remediation was for $16,000 to remediate, $12,000, or $2,500. By having those estimates, they were able to get the remediation work done for $2,500 and put it back on the market. Okay. If they had gone under contract and a buyer had come in and asked them to remediate, they might have been stuck with the $16,500 remediation work. Right. So it just takes some of the guesswork out. You know what, you have a full hand. You know what you're playing with.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
It is.
It is. And if you don't know your own house, a pre-inspection helps. So there's a standard in the state of Pennsylvania that all of these inspectors have to go through. They'll look at the exterior surfaces. And I know this is a lot of information on these slides, but you can refer back to them at a later date. And I know Karen's going to make them available for you if you need them. But they're looking at your siding material, that your electrical outlets work, your attic, that there's sufficient proper ventilation like we talked about. There's no leakage, interior plumbing. If your uncle or your brother-in-law came over and flooded the bathtub, you're going to need to disclose that. Even though you remediated it, you may have to disclose that in the seller's disclosure. bathtub, showers, your GFIs if they're up to code, if your appliances are functioning properly.
And these are important conversations, particularly in the beginning with the poll, where it seems like a lot of our attendees for the webinar have had their homes for 30 to 40 years.
Right.
Electrical code has changed quite a bit. So having a professional come in and do that evaluation is going to protect them.
Right.
On the other side. Okay.
On the other side. Exactly. At least you know what you're dealing with.
Right.
The basement, sometimes there's been some movement or water damage. And there's no problem to disclose it. The most important thing is you want to disclose what you know to be true about your house so that when somebody comes back later, because you're signing off on this seller's disclosure, like people will tell me, should I say there has been a leakage that happened in the basement or it overflooded with Sandy? You definitely want to let a seller know that that happened and that you remediated it so that they can't come back to you later and say, you didn't tell me that this happened. Right. You're always better off letting people know that something happened so that
your liability is limited.
Right, exactly. Other inspections include termite, asbestos, radon. In the state of Pennsylvania, it has to be lower than 4.1 or it needs to be remediated. This is not a big deal. It's very simple to remediate. They just take a fan and pipe it out to the back of the house. Again, lead paint, if your house was built before 1991, you simply need to fill out a disclosure on lead paint and mold. So the other thing with the inspections, it helps you kind of know your selling points. You know what's really good about a house, and you want to make sure that those are pointed out when you sell the house. You have a good school district. If you have recent renovations, you want to make sure those are pointed out. Or if anything's been grandfathered. I've had properties that have grandfathered in-law suites that people have used for rentals that, you know, those are always good to know when you're selling. And that will help you prepare your seller's disclosure because you're going to need to put one together when you sell your house. And the other important factor is you want to make sure your house is in move-in condition. If, I don't know if you watch much HGTV lately, but it's all over the place, right?
Constantly.
But one thing about the HGTV is it's made our entire millennial population very lazy, I will tell you. They just want to come in and just turn a key and walk in and buy your house. So they really don't want to do the extra landscaping or plumbing. They really like to have everything ready to go and the grays and the whites. Well, that's just not always true in these in today's market. So I feel like my parents' generation, they were much more ready to like pull up their sleeves and get to work. But today's market, a lot of people just want to come in and turn the key and move in. So we want it as move-in condition as possible when you put it on the market. It just sells a lot faster. And evaluate your curb appeal. Put your buyer's hat on. Think about when somebody's walking into your entry or exit. If your entryway has cobwebs or things like the windows aren't clean, people will see that and think the small maintenance issues might be equivalent to larger maintenance issues.
I think that's one area where a real estate professional can be particularly helpful because, you know, if I'm living in my home for 25 years, there are absolutely things that I don't see every day because I become, you know, they call it, it's a commercial nose blind, sight blind to it. Having a fresh set of eyes to walk through, really that's where you're bringing value into that relationship of having a professional do this so that you can kind of give a top 10, let's clean this, let's move this. I think that's that fresh eye and that seller's eye is what you bring to the conversation for people. Because, you know, that's just human nature. If you're living in the same space every day, there are certain things that you're going to overlook that someone's seeing it for the first time. Well,
right. No, I agree 100%. I think that's so important. Or if you have a really good friend that you can be honest with, you say, come on over and tell me if you smell anything, you know, like, because you
Right.
in your own house, you can't smell what your house smells like. And
Yeah.
you've been cooking the same thing all the time. There's an odor to certain houses that's just natural. Or if you have pets, you may love dogs, you may love cats, but the buyer that is walking in may not, and you may just not notice that there's, you know, certain things that are going on in your house. So
you had brought up to me the benefit of having a good professional cleaning. You
oh
know,
yes,
sometimes it's not
that's the
necessarily
number one thing,
right about you know, ripping out your kitchen, but really I've heard you counsel people say bring in Stanley steamer and have the carpets done and have the tile done, and that really can create such a welcoming. And
it's a game
changer.
It's the least expensive thing you can do to a house. paint and have it professionally cleaned. And it's a game changer. Like I said, it's like, if you think about a hotel room, if you go in there and there's just a toothbrush there, it just changes the way you feel about that room.
Put your toothbrushes away.
Yeah, everything, any personal items have to be put away.
Right.
We're going to talk a little
That's
bit
what I
about that.
learned from
Yes,
this.
staging. Yes,
Throw out
so
my
key.
toothbrush.
You'll get so much more on your home. Okay, so staging. That's a perfect transition. All right. Staging is especially important in today's market. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. You can use your own furniture, your own pictures. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It's just about taking out the clutter and the quirkiness of your own stuff and making it more neutral. What is staging? Staging is just preparing your property to be more open for more personalities, depersonalizing the space. It's enhancing the best features by defining the function of the space and the flow and making it a more comfortable environment. So just take a look at an average living room like this, and this is probably what most people's living room looks like when everybody's there, especially right now, right? Maybe a couple more books and things with the kids at home. And then opening it up. So the difference here is we took the television, we moved it.
This
right?
is interesting because this is the same room.
This
correct?
is the same
This
room.
is the exact same room.
This is the same room. So
Okay.
the window treatments we removed, the television we changed its placement, okay? And now this is not the way you can watch television. The television is now moved over here and the couch is facing the fireplace. The window treatments are removed, so more lights in the room. And there's a feng shui going on here where it's an open flow, okay? Now I've come in and I've staged family rooms and people have said to me, I can't watch television like that. And I'll say, no, you can't, but I can show your house this way. And your house will sell this way. It's just a better way to attract more buyers and obtain a higher sales price. And staging will actually show you that, your sales price will increase by at least 17 days and take it 11 days off the market. Here's another example. Here's a living room that has just too much going on. All right. What is this? What is the purpose of this room? Is it a living room? Is it a dining room? Is it a library? Is it an office? This room now looks like, a dining room. Okay. And it looks like it's opened up. It's more organized. That's all staging is. You're just looking to declutter a room, make it a functional room.
That looks like HGTV was there.
Right. It looks like it was there.
Yeah.
So we're really just saying each room that you walk into, you want to organize, you want to clean, you want to maybe paint. If it's too busy, you may need to think about neutralizing it in terms of color. But again, we're thinking spa-like hotel. I always say go out and buy some cheap, you don't have to spend a lot of money, but white fluffy towels in a bathroom. Take all of the personal items out of your bathroom, even just one thing of soap. No, nothing that would show that anybody actually is using that bathroom. And then same thing in your kitchen, everything off the kitchen countertops, and no trash cans being shown.
I had actually attended a seminar on staging one time, and they brought up personal pictures. And something that was so interesting when they said the reason you don't want to have the personal pictures, it gives a tell to the buyer. So if they are seeing pictures, you never want to give them something that they can use against you in negotiating the price, so that by eliminating those pictures, you level the playing field in terms of your negotiations with them. And I thought that was so smart. It's such a great piece of advice.
That's such a great point, because buyers are naturally, they're nosy. They want to know whose house it is, why are you leaving? And they want to know more about you. So they're going to be a little nosy, and they're going to try to figure out, as much as they can about the seller. So you don't want to have any personal pictures. We even see religious artifacts to try to remove from the house, because you want to just neutralize it,
and help them see a canvas where they can envision their lives and their family.
Right.
And then in exchange, you're benefiting yourself, because ultimately the goal is for you as the seller to receive the highest
bid.
Yeah.
Right.
And return on your investment that you made very intelligently 30 to 40 years ago.
Right.
So it's a great time to get that out.
Right. And it also, the less furniture that you have in the house and the less pictures, the more, the better able a buyer is to picture their own stuff in your house. So they can't make that leap, that imaginative leap, unless there's not much there. Okay. And quick way to think about organizing, decluttering. This is just, keep this in mind, red, yellow, green.
I love this.
Keep it simple. If you don't know how to organize a room or what to get rid of, just keep this visual in your head. Red light, yellow light, green light. If you are not going to bring it with you, it gets a red tag. Okay. If you're bringing it with you, it gets a green tag. If you can't make a decision on it, put a yellow tag on it. Okay. Those yellow tags are not to be dealt with until you have a cup of coffee or you know it's a good time for you. So the things that are yellow are the things that you don't know if you're going to give to your kids, or you're going to bring with you, or you just can't decide. Or maybe it's a closet you don't want to tackle. Those are the things that give us the most trouble. And those are the things that we can't make decisions on. And we never want to do them when we're tired or overwhelmed.
That's a great piece of advice.
And that's where people get stuck. Right. And that's why people end up with rooms full of stuff that they just can't deal with because they don't have the energy.
And it doesn't all have to be done in a day.
No.
I think give yourself a break. It takes decades to acquire these things, so it's not reasonable to expect you're going to divest within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I think having a plan and using the resources that we now have available is the difference between doing it the hard way or the easy way.
Right.
And if we can take that path of less stress,
of least resistance.
We all deserve it.
Right.
Especially after the last 6 months, we all deserve it. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. And try to keep it simple. And there are so many great companies out there right now that work in this field of decluttering and organizing that can help you, especially with those yellow items.
Do you have people that you've worked with that you can refer?
I have a list of really 3 great companies I'd recommend right off the bat that are terrific, that will come in, they work on an hourly basis, and can help you declutter and organize.
We'll include, for those of you in the webinar, we'll include some of these resources as follow-up for all of you, just to give you options going forward.
Yeah. Great companies that can sign, great companies that donate, great companies that are Habitat for Humanity, or, there's so many great companies
just
out there
because
right
we
now.
might not have use for, 62 dishes doesn't mean that there isn't someone else who can benefit from that.
Right.
So that's not only a tax deduction, but it's also, it feels good.
Yeah.
I think that it feels good.
All right. Number 1 question, when is the best time to sell your home? Okay. I know this was one of our poll questions, I think. How long have you been considering a move?
There we go.
I know a lot of people, and I will say this is really the perfect storm right now. If you've ever been thinking about it, your timing couldn't be better. So it may seem like you hear a lot of really awful stuff in the news right now going on, but take a deep breath and know that if you have been planning for retirement, your timing couldn't be better if you're thinking about putting your house on the market. I mean, you really have hit the perfect time, the perfect moment.
We've had conversations with people who had wanted to make a move between that time frame of 2008 and 2012, and that was not the time to do it. So as much as you know what isn't the time, recognizing what is, it's important in terms of figuring out what's right for you and for your family.
So we're last in the how long have you been considering moving? Basically, last 2 years is the majority, and less than the last 12 months, which is what I've been hearing. Really, last year and last 2 years is the majority. Timing it right. It used to be the end of March. So as soon as things were cold, started warming up at the end of March, the beginning of May, people would put their houses on the market, or you didn't want to sell during those vacation months, like while everybody was down the shore because it was really slow, but you wanted to get people into their homes before school started. Not true right now. Right now, new listings are at 62 in the last month, new pendings are 62. So as soon as something went on the market, it immediately sold. The average medium sale price was $737 just in different Easttown, Chester County. And the reason is historically low interest rates, less than 3% for conforming and conventional loans, rising home values across the country and the Philadelphia County. More people, as everybody knows, is working from home, homeschooling. I have one son that's just got a great job in Delaware, but he's working virtually. I have another son that's, and our kids are all working from home. You can't have, your house just doesn't have enough space.
Right.
So the people's second homes are becoming their first homes. It's so funny. Well-priced homes are often generating multiple offers with better terms. And this market simply isn't amenable to home sale contingencies. So for you as a seller, it's a perfect time. And demand can't last forever. I mean, 2021 may well see a slowdown in sales. I don't think it's going to slow down. I don't know that the values will hold as much if rates go up. So,
and that's an important part of the conversation also with your financial advisors, particularly for the people who have had their home as an investment for 30 and 40 years. That home has appreciated quite a bit in that time period. So you really want to have that conversation about pulling that asset out of that home when it's at its highest, and then how to reinvest that so that asset is working for your benefit.
Right.
So that's part of the conversation as well. And to pull the asset out at the height of the market versus the bottom of the market,
right,
it just makes financial sense. So
right, you've worked so hard to generate that asset, and now it's time, right? So 30-year interest rates, 2.99, they've never been this low. I mean, if you look at the market in the past since the 1970s, I mean, that is insane. And I call it the perfect storm really for the seller. I mean, if you know where you're going to retire, that's terrific. If you're able to get into a beautiful community like this, that's wonderful. But as a seller, this is really the ultimate and perfect storms, because you have the ability to sell right now in the best conditions.
I think it's about giving yourself options. And taking those steps to educate yourself as far as what are your options. No two people are alike. No two homes are exactly alike. No two senior living communities are exactly alike. So really, both Maureen and I want to thank you all and commend you for taking time to join us today. One of the most important things we can do as professionals in both of our industries is to help educate people. We want to have these conversations, and we want you to feel free and open to ask us the difficult questions. My favorite sayings, there's no bad questions, there are bad answers. But it's really important that you start the dialogue, that you seek out the resources and the experts and professionals who can help you find your way ultimately to what's best for you. What we are sharing as part of the community here at the Mansion at Rosemont, first of all, we are so committed to not only our residents, but the greater community. So webinars like this, other educational, cultural, artistic events are really commonplace on our 10-acre grounds. For those of you who may not be familiar with the community, the Mansion at Rosemont has been a leader in the field of senior living. We've served the main line since the 1950s. Originally, our mansion was actually, it was gifted to the Philadelphia Presbytery from a gentleman who was a well-known philanthropist, and the mansion itself was owned by the nephew of Mary Cassatt, who was a famed American Impressionist painter. So there's quite a bit of history on these grounds. Someone asked me the other day if people actually live in the mansion. They do. Yeah. And I think the best part about this community is really its size. We are not the monolith Walmart of senior living. It is a very intimate, very warm community, and absolutely worth noting that we are nonprofit. Last summer, we had a couple phone calls. People were asking about the name. So our name is the Mansion at Rosemont. Some of you may know us formerly as Rosemont Presbyterian Village. The most important takeaway is for you all to know that the community has maintained its nonprofit status. And when we merged with Human Good last year, that really gave us options to solidify our financial foundations. We do continue our philanthropy through several benevolent funds. Anyone who would like more information about that certainly can feel free to call or email me. And for your point of reference, the living options and amenities that are on your screen right now are meant to give you an overview of the community. We are both independent living and a supportive care community with living options that range in size from a studio all the way to a 3-bedroom cottage. When I reference the cottage, we do have a village on our premises adjacent to the mansion and right outside of the beautiful gardens. So for people who would prefer to live a bit more independently, the cottage is a great option. And then in our main house, we have studios through 2-bedroom, 2-bath, along with all the amenities that you would really expect from a community located in the heart of Rosemont. Chef prepared meals, wellness center, on-site banking. Particularly after the last 6 months, we have met with a lot of couples who managed, they will share they managed very well, but they found themselves feeling lonely and isolated in their homes. There was an article that was written, actually authored by 2 of our residents, and they spoke to what it was like to live in a community throughout the pandemic. And for anyone who would either like to read that article or stop by and meet the Sterretts in person, it's an important part of the conversation that while our residents certainly practice social distancing throughout the pandemic, we stayed connected in very, very creative ways and just were never alone.
That's so awesome.
So we get a lot of questions because there was quite a bit of, the mainstream media and the news, they get their ratings based on the number of eyeballs that go to their screen. So I hope your most important takeaway from this webinar is to ask questions and really understand what the different living options are that are out there. Independent living, personal care, very different community structures than what you hear reported as a nursing home. And throughout the pandemic, our team here rose to the challenge, and through social distancing, PPE for everyone, supporting our residents in terms of doing shopping for them, delivering exceptional meals to their doorstep, we stayed connected and stayed safe at the same time. So 24-hour security, around the clock access, those are things that you expect, but to know and have that peace of mind that although we were being responsible in social distancing, that there was help there if you needed it. Our residents actually started phone trees. They found creative ways of being connected. Maureen had a chance to preview our gardens. They have never looked so gorgeous.
Awesome.
It was a bountiful year for tomatoes and peppers at the Mansion of Rosemont. But really finding creative ways of staying connected, outdoor exercise classes, walking clubs. We all challenged ourselves, how can we do things in a different way, yet achieve those common goals of supporting each other and taking care of ourselves and each other. Because we remain connected, we never felt alone here. For anyone who would be interested in either visiting the campus for the first time, we are offering on-campus tours, of course with COVID screening and masks, PPE. Please do give us a call at 610-527-6505 to schedule an in-person tour, or you can email me for more information. With that, I think we would like to kind of open up some opportunity for questions and answers from our audience to see what things you'd like to know a little bit more about, and what questions do you have for Maureen?
Yes. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending today, and thanks for having me here. I really enjoyed the presentation and being able to share information with you. I have a top 10 list as well on things to do, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. So please feel free to pop them out to me.
We see some things coming through the chat.
So make sure we're answering these right. This is, are they up here on the, do we hit this one?
Q&A. Yeah, question.
It's coming through right there. I'm not sure. So,
While we figure out the chat, why don't we go, it's in the Q&A. Thank you. This would be our technical.
difficulties here. We don't want to stop sharing. So
Yeah.
let's talk about some of the 10 best secrets, and you can see if the Q&A comes up here. Yeah. Any ideas what the 10 best secrets would be for selling your home? Half empty closets. The thing that's so important is people say, you know, organizing your closets. If you can't see the bottom of a closet, that will, to me, is really important. You just need to make sure, you know, have shoes on the bottom and you have all kinds of stuff on the bottom, open them up. All right. People will snoop and you don't want them moving your stuff around. So you want to make sure those closets are half empty, because if there's only 2 of you living there and I'm bringing in a party of 5 to move into your beautiful new home, and there's not enough storage for you guys, then I'm not going to think there's not enough storage for me and my new family if I'm bringing in 5.
So, and please forgive us, folks. We are attempting to click on the Q&A and having a little bit of difficulty seeing the questions. So I'll let Maureen continue through this while we work through our questions.
Oh, there you go. Second thing is light it up. Make sure that you maximize the light in your home. So you want to take down the drapes, you want to clean the windows, you want to change the lampshades, you might even increase the wattage on the bulbs to let the sunshine in. Whatever you have to do to make your house a little bit more light and cheery. A lot of us have heavier draperies on our house than normal for showings, meaning what you do in private. Maybe you don't want your neighbors to see everything going on in your house, but when you show it, you want to have a little bit more light than normal. Just to show the natural light that comes into the house. Okay.
And folks, we are seeing that 4 questions have registered. Unfortunately, we're having a little bit of a difficult time pulling those questions up. What we will be able to do is we will eventually get to those questions. If we need to answer them and send them out in the email, our apologies for the technical difficulties.
Some questions there? Okay. You want to, can they text them into you?
This is.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you, okay.
Okay. So we can see them there, but then I'm clicking on the Q&A.
Okay.
But as we're hitting it, it's not popping up. Okay. So,
what are some of the normal questions that
I have a couple of questions that will typically come up. One of the concerns that I've heard frequently from people who have come in to visit is they want to do this. They know that they want to make a move, but the thought of actually getting the process started is so overwhelming that it causes them to stay and do nothing.
All the time.
So what would you say would be the first step forward in order to start having this conversation?
Well, meaning, have they decided where they want to go first, or are they decided?
Just that they want to. They know that they know that they've been in the house, and maybe this is a conversation my husband and I are having. Like 5 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms is just a lot for 2 people.
Okay,
and,
sure.
But honestly, I'm done cleaning the bathrooms.
Okay, all right, perfect.
And I go crazy if someone goes into the bathroom that I feel like they don't need to use.
Okay.
But where do you start? Do you start with a stager? How do you contact a realtor? What's the first step if they were to call you today and say, where do we start? What's the first thing that you counsel?
Yeah, I would contact a realtor. So I'd say playing the agent field too. When I always say talk to a realtor first, because you want to find out how much is your house worth. Mm-hmm. All right, because you really need to know what is the value of your home before you move to the next environment. Because if you know what your house is worth, you know where you can go next. And hopefully you have a plan for what the next great adventure is for you and your husband, because that gets you excited.
Right.
So if you know you're going to go to Florida, you know you're going to move into one of these, a beautiful community like this, then you start to get excited and you can say, all right, so I'm going to get this much for my house. So this is where I can go next. And then that realtor can give you some ideas on what you need to do with the home in order to get it ready for the market. So that's plan A. All right.
So now, considering COVID, are you available to do, can you Zoom them or can you?
Sure.
So I think that's important to know. The first step doesn't necessarily have to be in person, but
No.
they can reach out and through Zoom, you can meet with them.
Right.
They could probably even walk you around the house.
Yeah. Oh, so I
love that.
I've had a video of, I've actually had open houses on Zoom. So we do that quite a bit. We, before we were even allowed to get into homes, we had open houses on Zoom where we'd actually do an open house from 2 to 4, and we'd walk through the house with our phone, and you'd have the big screen just walking through room to room, and I'd say, okay, this room needs this room needs that. Or for the tour, I'd say, welcome to the kitchen, custom cherry cabinets, and then someone would say, could I see inside that pantry? And I'd say, sure, and show them the pantry. So it was an interactive open house for an individual private tour for the buyer or for the open house that was going on. So very easy to do. And when I talk about who should you hire as an agent, I always say, find someone you can trust. All right. And how do you know that you can trust them? Well, you have to talk to them a little bit. You want somebody that's going to be honest with you, like, will tell you that the house smells. You need to know that.
Right.
That what the house is worth, that has the technology that can embrace what's going on in the market. They have to be tech savvy because your buyers are tech savvy. And they have to know the market. They have to know the local market, and they have to know what's going on currently with everything. I mean, you really do need somebody that's been around the block. So I always say, if you're not comfortable with someone, then move on to the next agent. There's enough agents that are out there, and there's some really good agents out there. But you want to be comfortable because it becomes kind of a familial situation, and you might be with that person for, let's say you put the house on the market and it takes 2 months to get it ready, and then you have a 60-day contract, and then you sell it. You might be with that person for 4 or 5 months for whatever reason, and you just want to be able to know that whatever you say to them is always going to be confidential. You have that fiduciary responsibility. They're going to know about your finances. Be confident and comfortable. It's like a lawyer or a doctor. It's a team effort. It's a team. So I always say that to people. I say my best advice is you'll know from your gut instinct if you're able to trust somebody, if they're going to tell you the truth, that type of thing. But make sure they know their business and they have the technology to move in the market.
So it's saying this, I'll tell you what you need to hear,
right?
not just what you want to hear,
right.
And that I think that's the best method to gauge whether it's a friend or whether it's a colleague or a professional partner that you're looking for.
Right. Okay. So keep
we'll
going on that. Okay. Other questions about concealed critters? We did talk a little bit about animals earlier. That's important. If someone does not like animals, don't over upgrade. The number one thing you can't do is you might think you need to spend more money on a kitchen or a bath. That people always ask me, what should I spend my money on? Should I redo the bathroom? Should I redo the house? There's something called a cost versus value study, and I'd be happy to share that with anyone that's interested. If you redo your bathroom for $30,000 and make this beautiful new bathroom for the next buyer, you may not get that back. You may only get 10,000 or 15,000 back. So before you put money into your home, only do it for yourself if you're going to enjoy it over the next 5 years.
I think that's such an important point, because when people think they have to redo that kitchen or that bathroom, you have to understand that contractor, deservedly so, has a 25% profit margin built into that. So if people spend $50,000 on a kitchen, these HGTV shows a lot of times will say, make them think that because they spent $50,000 on the kitchen, it's going to add $60,000 in value.
Right.
When the reverse in our market is usually true, that $50,000 kitchen investment may benefit you 30,000.
Right.
But to your point, do the kitchen if you're going to enjoy it but don't do the kitchen. It's better to take that $30,000 and reduce it off of your asking price so that they can then have that resource to come in and build the kitchen of their dreams in your house.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's probably like the negative, the HGTV,
yes.
because they might be misleading a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
See that they don't account for the profit margin.
You're so much better off doing a fresh coat of paint, maybe changing the door handles on your knobs in your kitchen, making sure your closet doors are on track, and doing the small maintenance things than the large things. Yeah, Stanley steamer cleaner.
Sarah suggested that maybe we may try to take down the PowerPoint for a second, folks, to try and access your Q&A. We're still working. We're working behind the scenes on questions and answers. So.
All right. So quick, the other one, take the home out of your house. We talked about that. Memorabilia collections, personal keepsakes. Kitchen comes first. That's your number one sell. So make sure that's clutter free and clean. And always be ready to show, making it sparkling as possible, and you'll never know when you get a second chance to make a first impression. So just important reminders: remove valuables, put your prescriptions away, and secure personal information, because again, someone could walk through the house and take a quick picture. You always want to make sure everything is where it needs to be. I'm going to take this down. We're going to try this. Stop sharing.
Stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. All right, we got
some questions.
Yay!
Yay.
Okay. I'll read them too. So, can you help us find resources for packing, moving, arranging furniture in our new home?
Yes, I have tremendous stagers that I work with all the time, and we'd be happy to send them to you. If we have a link set up with Karen that we're going to share that information with you.
We have everybody's email addresses, so we'll make sure we send that as an attachment following up, along with a link to this webinar. So if you'd like to view it again or share it with any of your friends, family members, people you think might benefit from it, you'll be able to email the link and they can view it themselves. Next question, is it possible to move into the mansion first and then list your home for sale so that we can cut down on the stress involved? Absolutely. It's actually been a conversation we've been having more frequently recently, given the limited number of days on the market for homeowners within not only 19010, 19087, the greater main line. People are really having that conversation, kind of getting back to what we talked to earlier. Do it the easy way or do it the hard way. To have the option to be able to move into your next home and start that next adventure with everything organized and pretty, and give yourself the time to ready your
house,
former home for sale. Not to have to run out to Panera when Maureen is going to bring someone through, or when they're going to be showing your home.
Right.
Not to have to worry about the toothbrush on the sink and the toothpaste in the sink.
And the house actually shows better with less in it, believe it or not.
That was something that had come up. People said, well, what would I do? To be able to stage your home, you can still stage your former home and move into a community. Again, everyone's financial profile is different. So this would be a conversation that we are happy to have one-on-one with you as far as what that process looks like. Some people will move to our community and they don't need to sell their home first. Other people do. We have a path forward for both scenarios, but thank you for asking. And
it's 12 o'clock.
Yes. So one last question. Actually, we had a comment. Great presentation, very informative. Thank you so much to all our fans out there in cyberspace. So how do you declutter? Where do you put all your stuff while you prepare the house for sale?
That's a great question. So that happens a lot of times. People will try to have a yard sale, or they're trying to put stuff in the garage, or they have children and they have stuff everywhere. So what we recommend is that if you do have a lot of stuff that you're trying to declutter, if you donating, let's say, and that's one area that you can call like a JD junk removal, which only hires veterans, which is a wonderful establishment in this area. that can get rid of junk. But if you have stuff that you're moving to another area, you can always designate a space for moving. So you could box it and have it filed as moving boxes. And that shows a buyer that you are a motivated seller and it's an organized space for to put things. So that's what we recommend, that you designate one area with boxes for moving.
Okay.
And that helps declutter a house or even a room. People expect that.
We have another question. What are the current costs of a house sale?
So that's a great question. So depending upon where you're coming from, like in the Chester County area, you may have a transfer tax of 1.5 that each the buyer and the seller pay, and there are closing costs. Usually an agent or a brokerage house will charge 6%, 3% to the buyer's broker, 3% to the seller's broker off of the purchase price of the house. And then beyond that, if you do an inspection, a home inspection typically can run between $300 and $500, depending upon the type of scope of the inspection. Buyers typically pay for that. Again, everything is negotiable, but your main costs really would be your transfer tax and any other fees that are associated as a seller, your taxes, basically.
Next question. I heard you have some special apartments within the mansion. Can you talk about them a little? Yes, actually, we are about to launch a special program. It's our Cassatt collection. When I had referenced that the mansion was originally owned by the nephew of Mary Cassatt, the American Impressionist painter, there are apartment homes in the mansion that are so unique. They include all the original hardware, finishings, parquet floors. They're just gorgeous.
In the mansion?
There are, yes, it's in the mansion.
Is that where you're going to have the bistro and
there's where the bistro is. So when we talk about downsizing to a mansion, it really is worth the time, even just from a historical perspective.
It's beautiful.
It's a jewel of the main line. It's something that is so unique. But people actually do live in the mansion. We have 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartment homes that are there. And please, if you'd like to to take a peek at the Cassatt collection, that campaign will be launching next month. So I'm not sure how long those apartments will be available to be viewed. The demand is high for things that are very unique. It's the opposite of a cookie cutter. And again, just really, it's so wonderful to be able to appreciate the history of the grounds, but still be able to offer all of the amenities and the technology that we've embraced in 2020. So our next question, is there an opportunity to rent or buy at the mansion? We actually, as a life plan community, we have options for people that involve entrance fees, as well as people who do not choose to submit an entrance fee, different fee schedules for both. So we are happy to send a brochure or review that information. Obviously with the entrance fee, it starts at $65,000 for a studio and maxes at around $315,000 for the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom independent cottages in the village. Here's a good one. Oh my goodness, please forgive me. This was a good one about unsolicited. How dangerous is it to respond to unsolicited, "We'll buy your house for cash"? Take that.
Hey, if it's too good to be true, it usually is, okay? That would be something that, like, I think my mother or father told me all of my life. Usually that is the statement. I will just go with that. I've seen the signs. I don't know who they are, but I typically would not.
Like on the roadside.
Yeah, that on the roadside where they're saying, "We'll buy for cash." Typically, it's not something that I would work with, but I do think it would be dangerous to get involved with somebody that's willing to buy your house for cash and not know anything about them or what you're getting involved with. So
to that point, do your research.
Yeah, you'd have to really look into a company that's willing to just offer you cash for your house and not know what you're getting involved with. And to that point, there is a lot of wire fraud that is involved right now in the housing market, and we stress this all the time. Nobody should ever be asking you for any information regarding your banking information. Wire fraud is something that's been prevalent across the board in trading and equity management, just because of electronic, documentation right now. So it's a great question, and I would be very, very cautious, just across the board right now. So
yeah, do your
homework. Research, do your homework.
Next question, how many cottages are there available? Will more be built? At the present time, we have submitted permit requests with the township to renovate 2 cottages on our campus. They will have 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We recently had a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, but that has gone under agreement. So cottages are very popular. We do have a wait list for the cottages, but if someone is specifically interested in that size and location option, definitely give me a call or an email, and we can discuss the timeframes and what that process moving forward would be. It keeps jumping to the bottom with the questions. All right, let me see. I think we had another question. That might be it. Okay. Did I miss any?
No, I don't think so.
All right, folks. I think with that, we have actually
gone
over our time and wrapped up our Q&A. Thank you for your patience while we work through the technical difficulties. We look forward to hosting this webinar again, where we will certainly have learned from some of our missteps today. But again, I think along the same lines with what we've all been managing, we all do the best we can every day. And at the end of the day, our goal is that we hope you found this webinar to be informative and helpful, and that your takeaway is that you know that there are resources out there to help you through this process. You are not in it alone, and let's be smart.
Yeah, the timing is really good. If there ever was a time, now is a great time to consider putting your house on the market, and not to wait too long. We don't really. The one thing people always ask me is, what to expect with the change in the coming elections and things like that. I think it's all very positive. I think whoever gets elected, the economy will continue to be really good because people want to go back to work. I was amazed this weekend at how many people were out and about because they were allowed to go back in restaurants. They're allowed to go back to work. People want to continue to move forward and work. So I think our economy will continue to do well. The only thing we don't know is if inflation grows, what will happen to the rates. So as sellers, you're in a great position right now. As buyers, they may not always be in that continuing great position in terms of their interest rates, mortgage rates. So my advice is always take advantage of the timing that you do have and the condition of the market while you have the opportunity. And if I can be of any help, I would love to answer any questions at any time to be of service in that light. So thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Thank you for coming. As I mentioned before, I had the pleasure of doing this live with Maureen in the past. So we do hope that you enjoyed the webinar format. We really value our professional partnerships that we have here at the Mansion at Rosemont through Maureen Mahoney. We look forward to being able to bring some other educational opportunities forward in this format. Until then, we will wish you all a happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining us, and please do feel free to give us a call or email with any questions, and follow-up will include the link and other resources that we discussed today.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.